Hi guys, welcome to today's lecture. This is Blessed Elvis. So in today's video, we are going to discuss how we can solve the polynomial functions. Looking at that, in the previous two videos we had discussed how we can factorize and find the remainders of the given values of the polynomials. In today's lecture, however, we are going to discuss how we can solve the same given polynomials. So this is going to be done using the examples. So let's say you have 2x as your polynomial raised to power 3 plus 3x squared minus 3x equals to 2. So what do you think is the first step for us to solve such kind of a polynomial? So the first step is taking this value to the left side, because here we just have to have 0 here. So in this case then, it's going to be 2x raised to power 3 plus 3x squared minus 3x, and then when this 2 gets to the negative, rather to the left, it's going to be negative 2, and here we are going to remain with 0. So if you remember in the previous video, we had said for you to factorize such kind of an expression, you need to find the divisor. So likewise, for you to solve such kind of a polynomial, you need to have a divisor, because a divisor now is what's going to guide you into finding other values. Okay, so let's do that. So here, for us to find the divisor, we need to use trial and error method, where we try different kinds of values. So we can have positive and negative 1, positive and negative 2, positive and negative 3. We can have a lot of whatever values we can put here. So these are the values you keep on trying. So whichever value gives you 0 is a divisor. Okay, so let's try positive 1. Let's try to replace where there is x with positive 1. Okay, so let's say where there is x we put positive 1. Let's see if this gives us 0, then this positive 1 we will say is a divisor. So we have 1 there, and then negative 2 equals to 0. So what is 1 raised to power 3? It's 1. And then 1 multiplied by positive 2 outside there, it's positive 2. Plus 1 raised to power 2, it's 1. Then 1 multiplied by this 3 here, it's 3. And then 3 multiplied by 1 there, it's 3. Then positive 1 multiplied by negative, which is on the 3 side, it's negative 3. And then we have negative 2 here equals to 0. So in this case, when we add positive 2 to 3, we are going to have positive 5. When we add negative 3 to negative 2, we are going to have negative 5. So in this case then, we are going to have positive 5 minus 5 equals to 0. Of course, negative 5 and positive 5 gives 0, so we are going to have 0 equals to 0. So in this case, since x equals to 1 has given us the function of this equals to 0, it implies that x equals to 1 is a factor. So in this case then, we are going to have the dividend, which is 2x raised to power 3 plus 3x squared minus 3x, okay, then negative 2, which equals to 0, has a divisor which we have just found, that is x equals to 1. Okay, so in this case, when we were factorizing in the previous video, which is part 2 of the polynomial functions, we said you can use the synthetic method. So let's do that. So synthetic method, you simply write this, and then you write this value here on this side, and then here on this part you simply write the coefficients of x values. So in this case, the first part that we are going to begin with is positive 2, which is this side here. So we are going to have 2, and then this one here, which of course is 3, and then this one here, which of course is negative 3, and then this one here, which is negative 2. Okay, so the first step after you have done this is by dropping this value here. Of course, we are going to have 2. Then this 2 multiplied by this one here, we are going to have what? 2 here. And then 3 added to 2 here, we are going to have positive 5. Then positive 5 multiplied by positive 1, we are going to have positive 5. Then negative 3 added to positive 5, we are going to have positive 2. Then positive 2 multiplied by 1 here, we are going to have positive 2. Then negative 2 added to positive 2 here, we are going to have what? 0. So the value which is here is the what? Is the remainder. Then the values that you have here are your what? Okay, the values that you have here are your quadratic equations, are the ones that forms the quadratic equations. So this is your area of interest. So these are the only values that we are going to get for us to form a quadratic equation. So let me just write them separately. So we have 2, 5, and 2. Now remember that a quadratic equation is of the form ax squared plus bx plus constant c, which of course this equals to 0. So in this case we are not solving, so we are just going to leave it like that. Anyway, let me just add 0 here. So in this case, this value will represent a, so we are going to have 2x squared. This value will represent b, so we are going to have 5x. Then this value will represent c, so we are going to have positive 2 equals to 0. Now that we have a quadratic equation, you can either use formula method or you can use the factorization method for you to solve this. Whichever method is good for you. You can also use the square method for you to solve it. However, in this video, I am going to use the factorization method. So how can we factorize this for us to solve it? So we know that for us to solve this quadratic equation, we need to find the product, the sum, and the factors. So in this case, the product is the multiplication of the first term here, which is 2, multiplied by the constant value here, which is 2. So this 2 multiplied by this 2 is what makes up the product. So this 2 multiplied by this 2 is what? Is 4. So our product is 4. And then the sum is simply the value of b that you have here. So in our quadratic equation, the value of b is 5. So in this case then, the sum will be 5. So the factors are the values you can multiply for you to have the product that you have, and then when you add the same values, you have the sum here. So which values do you think we can multiply for us to have 4, and then add the same values for us to have 5? So in this case, the values are what? Okay, 1 and 4. When we multiply 1 multiplied by 4, we are going to have the product, which is 4. When we add 1 added to 4, it's 5, which means we are going to have the sum here. So these are the values that we are going to replace where there is the value of b. So in this case, where there is 5x, we are going to replace with 1 and 4. So in this case then, our quadratic equation will be 2x squared plus, so since it's 1, you add the variables that are present in the given quadratic equation. So since it's x, it means we are going to have 1x. Now you don't write 1x, we are just going to write x because 1x itself is x. So in this case, we are just going to write x here, and then we are adding what? 4x, then plus 2 equals to 0. Okay, so if you can see, x is common here and there, so we can separate these likewise. So since x is common here and there, we are just going to factor it out, and then here we are going to remain with 2x. Then plus, here we remove x, we are just going to remain with what? With 1. Then plus, here we can see that this 2 can go into 4, so 2 is what? Is common. So in this case then, we are going to have 2 outside here, and then here we are going to remain with 2x plus 1. Okay, and then close brackets. So let me just wrap this part here, the top part here, since we have already manipulated that one. So in this case then, we are going to have, okay, we are going to have x outside. Let me just rewrite this. So we have this, and then we have here we had 2, and then here we have 2x plus 1. Okay, that's what we have. So in this case then, we are going to write one of the two, since these are common. They are called common factors because they are common, they are the same. So in this case, we are just going to write one of the two. So we have 2x plus 1. And then here, we just simply write the values that are outside the brackets. So in this case, it's x and 2. Okay, so these are our factors. Now remember, there is one divisor we had found when we just began solving this expression, where we said x equals to 1. So x equals to 1 is also a factor. How? when we take this positive 1 to the left side, we are going to have what? X. When this positive 1 comes to this side, it's going to be negative equals to 0. So when we take away this, we are going to simply have x minus 1. So in this case then, x minus 1 is also a factor. So here we have, okay, so we have also x minus 1 as also our factor. So let me just rub some of the things here which we do not need anymore, so that we can have a lot of space here. Now that we have our factors, if we were factorizing, it means that we are done here. Okay, now that we are solving, we have to equate this to what? To 0. But if you were asked to factorize, it means at this point you are done. So in this case, solving this, we are going to equate each of the factors to 0. So we are going to say 2x plus 1 is equals to 0. Also x plus 2 equals to 0, and also x minus 1 equals to 0. Then let's solve this. So in this case, we are going to have 2x. When this positive 1 goes to the other side, which is this side, it's going to be what? It's going to be negative. So it's going to be 0 minus 1. And then also likewise, if positive 2 comes to the right side here, it's going to be what? Negative. So it's going to be 0 minus 2. Okay, so even here, when this negative 1 goes to the other side, it's going to be 0 plus 1. So in this case, let's subtract 0 minus 1. So we're going to have 2x equals to 0 minus 1, it's negative 1. And then here we have 0 minus 2, it's negative 2. And then also here, when we subtract, or rather add, we are going to have x equals to 0 plus 1, it's 1. So let me just write these values that we have on top here for the sake of not seeing properly down there. So we have 2x equals to 1. We also have x equals to negative 2. And then we also have x equals to 1. So in this case, let's divide 2 to both sides here and there, so that we cancel this and that, and then we remain with x equals to 1 over 2. And then also x equals to negative 2, and also what? X equals to 1. So these are our values. In this case then, it means we have solved this completely. So these are our values. Then it means the polynomial has been solved completely. So let's look at another example. So let's say you have f of x equals to x raised to power 3 minus 2x squared plus 2x. Then let's say you have been given that where f of x is equal to, let's say, 4. So in this case here, if you have been told that where f of x is equal to 4, it means that where there is this, we are going to replace with what? With 4, because it's saying f of x equals to 4. So where there is f of x, it means that there is what? There is 4. So let's replace that. So we are going to have 4 equals to x raised to power 3 minus 2x squared plus 2x. So let's take this 4 to the other side here. So we are going to have what? We are going to have x raised to power 3 minus 2x squared plus 2x. When this positive 4 goes to the other side, we are going to have what? Negative 4. So here we will remain with what? With a 0. Now, writing this expression like that is the same as writing the expression like this, where the 0 will be on the right side. It's just the same thing. Okay? It's just the same thing. So it's the same as we have that. So since we have this, let's now solve this expression. If you remember, the first step that we need for us to solve this kind of a polynomial is by doing what? Okay, it's simply by finding the divisor which will give us 0 when we replace the values in this polynomial. So which value do you think we can start with? Okay, let's say we are just trying if it will give us 0. If it won't give us 0, it means that that value is not a factor. So let's say, what if we replace with x equals to 2? Will it give us 0 or not? So let's try that. So where there is x, I will replace with 2. So we are going to have 2 power 3. and then minus 2. Where there is x, I will replace with 2. So we have squared, and then plus 2. And then where there is x, I will replace with 2 minus 4 equals to 0. So let's manipulate that one. So 2 raised to power 3, it's 8. And then 2 raised to power 2, it's what? It's 4. Then 4 multiplied by this 2 outside here, it's what? It's 8. So we have 8 there, and then plus this 2 multiplied by this 2, we are going to have what? 4, and then minus 4, which of course this equals to 0. So 8 minus 8, it's what? It's 0, and then plus 4 minus 4, it's what? It's 0. This equals to 0. So in this case, then 0 plus 0 is what? It's 0 equals to 0. So in this case, since x equals to 2 has given us the function here, after we had replaced with 2, it had given us 0. It means that this divisor here is a factor of the given polynomial function. So in this case, remember, our polynomial function was given to be x raised to power 3 minus 2x squared plus 2x minus 4 equals to 0. And then after we replaced x equals to 2, it gave us 0, which implies that this one is our divisor. So let's use the synthetic method for us to find the value. So x equals to, so 2 will be here, and then we are going to write the coefficients of x values. So the coefficient of x raised to power 3, it's what? It's 1. The coefficient of x power 2, it's negative 2. The coefficient of x here, it's simply positive 2. And the coefficient of the constant here, it's negative 4. So we have that. So let me just wrap this for the sake of not being confused. Okay, so it's negative 4. Let me wrap even this one. Okay, so it's negative 4. So we have positive 2 here and negative 4. So let's just drop this one as done before. So we are just going to drop this one here. We are going to have 1. Then this one multiplied by 2 here, it's what? It's positive 2. Then positive 2, negative 2 added to positive 2, it's what? It's 0. Then 0 here multiplied by this 2 here, we are going to have 0. Then 2 added to 0, it's what? It's 2. And then this 2 multiplied by this 2, we are going to have what? 4. So it's going to be 4 here. Then this 2 added to negative 4, or rather, sorry, this 4 added to negative 4, we are going to have what? We are going to have 0. So this last part here is what describes our remainder value. If you have been asked to find the remainder, then this is your answer. But if you have been asked either to factorize or find the values, or rather solve this this expression here, it means that your area of interest should be in the first 3 values. So the first 3 values we have are what? 1, 0, and 2. So let's express this in the form of a quadratic equation. We know a quadratic equation is ax squared plus bx plus constant c equals to 0. So in this case, our value of a will be what? Will be 1. So it will be 1x squared plus our value of b will be 0. So it will be 0x plus our value of the constant c will be what? Will be 2 equals to 0. So in this case, it's the same as we have x squared. When we omit this here, it means we are going to have positive 2 here, which of course equals to 0. So in this case, our factor here is going to be x squared plus 2. Let's at this point first not consider equating this to 0. So we have this, and remember at first we had replaced x equals to 2. So putting this in form of a factor like this one, we are going to take this 2 to the left side, which of course is going to be negative. So this one is the factor that we are going to have here. So we have this one and this one as our factor. So since we have this and this as our factor, let's try to express this in form of this. So here we have 2 x values. So let's separate. So we have x and another x here. And then here we have what? The positive sign. So it's positive multiplied by positive. Then 2. Which 2 numbers can you multiply for you to have 2? So of course 1 and 2 itself. So these are our what? Are our factors. So even here we have that. So in this case, these are our factors. So if you were asked to factorize this, it means you are done with your expression. This is how we factorize. But since our area here is to solve this, we have to equate this to what? To 0. So in this case, we are going to equate each factor to 0. So we are going to have x plus 1 equals to 0, then x plus 2 equals to 0, then x also minus 2 equals to 0. So let's solve this one. So taking this positive 1 to the other side, you are going to have x equals to negative 1. Taking positive 2 to the other side, you are going to have x equals to negative 2. And then also taking negative 2 to the right side, you are going to have x equals to positive 2. So in this case, these are our factors, or rather our values. So it means that we have solved this expression completely. This is how we solve the polynomial functions. Thanks once again, guys, for staying this far. Please like, subscribe, share, and turn on the notification button so that you are updated whenever I upload a new video. Stay blessed.